Ball State because of the amount of advocacy that they can have, and to an extent, an amount of authority that they can have for the student. And not to speak on behalf of the student body, but instead to speak through them. I think is something really, really crucial that, again, I feel could be better when we come together, for sure. Thank you.
Brenna, whenever you're ready.
Yeah, so definitely the main mission of the Senate, like my opponent did say, is really to advocate for the student body. The way that this can be done is truly threefold: through working on powerful projects, meaningful initiatives, and through passing legislation that can implement change by sending it up through university governance, university senate, and sometimes, to the board of trustees. So really working on building these skills up in the people that are fortunate enough to join our Senate so they know the proper steps to getting these projects made. It's great when they have an idea, but if they don't know the proper steps in order to get it to their end goal, you really have to work on that and make sure people have the means necessary to get this implemented. One of the best ways we can implement change on campus is through writing legislation. And I know I could definitely continue to help senators through this process because I have experience working on this from all sides, both writing legislation myself, working on multiple different resolutions during my time as a senator, as well as helping other senators write legislation, and now having the opportunity to advocate for it at the university governance scale. I know I could help senators really work on these meaningful initiatives. Additionally, we really have to continue our diverse senator recruitment in order to meet the goals of what Senate is actually for, to meet its mission. If we allow senator recruitment to go back to kind of where it was in the past, we're simply not going to be representing the student body in the same way. So we have to continue recruiting people from all different backgrounds, whether that's different educational levels where they started, whether it's from different race, ethnicity, or ability status. We have to continue this to make sure that our student senate is the most representative of the student population that it can be. And to answer the second part of that question, we really have to make sure the students know what is going on inside our Senate body. Me and my running mate have a plan in order to make sure that the student body is informed when different initiatives are passed, whether that will be through our hopeful future administration and the executive board side or through the legislative branch. Making sure updates are given on our own social media platforms, making sure we're continuing to publish these comprehensive end of semester and end of the year reports to make sure people know what is going on in our body. Because we can work on as many powerful projects as we want, but if we don't continue this very important aspect of communicating it back to the students, that's simply not going to matter. Additionally, a promise that me and my running mate have made in all the organizations that we visit is that we will come back to them, whether in person, whether talking to their SGA rep, or conversing with their president to make sure that they know where we are, say, 3 months or a year from now, to let them know what projects have been passed and where we are in not only our own platforms, but the platforms that the Senate passes.
All right. Our next question of the evening: what are some contemporary issues within the Ball State student body that you feel need to be addressed? Brenna, we'll start with you.
Yeah, so there are definitely a lot of issues that I definitely feel like that need to be addressed, which is why we've included them in our own platform. And so I'll talk about a couple that are definitely near and dear to my heart for a couple of different reasons. One of the first issues is student safety. There's been a lot of different situations that have occurred on and across our campus this last year that have made students even more concerned about safety, where I know there are definitely students that have been concerned about in the past, but this has definitely come to the forefront of their minds. So me and my running mate Noah have a plan in order to make sure that student safety is better addressed on campus by introducing new measures to make sure that students can always access the help that they need. For example, very few students know the university police office, their phone number and how to contact them if an issue occurs on campus. So making sure students have quick access to that. We also want to make sure data being published is very transparent, so students always know what is happening on campus and can easily digest the information that is being presented to them. Another area that is really important to me personally is disability awareness and making sure students that have disabilities and need disability accommodations on campus are being properly represented. Because I myself have disability accommodations, this is definitely something that's super personal to me, and we spend a lot of time not only building our platform around, but talking to different organizations with. So this means making sure commonplace accommodations are included in every single classroom. Things like subtitles on videos or recorded lectures are sometimes a necessity for students with disabilities, but can benefit all students. Say you just miss a day of class because you have the flu, you will be able to come in and be able to access the same material as your classmates that were in the class session. Additionally, with that, we really want to increase awareness so students know what is happening with the disability community, and also that they can access accommodations at any point in their collegiate career. If their health or mental health changes, this is always a resource that's going to be there for them as students. And a final area I know that I am personally passionate about is sexual assault awareness. So we really want to increase red zone information and programming. The red zone refers to the first 6 weeks that a student is on campus where assaults are more likely to occur. So we really want to increase programming there in the residence halls so students know that this is a possibility, how to potentially prevent it, but also if the unfortunate occurs, how they can address this with the resources that are already on campus. Even further, we want to continue SGA's current programming surrounding Sexual Assault Awareness Month to make sure that these wonderful events that the university puts on can continue to happen, and SGA can continue to make these events even greater than what they are now.
Can you repeat the question?
Of course. What are some contemporary issues within the Ball State student body that you feel need to be addressed?
Well, I think somewhat, I don't know why, but when you said the word contemporary, like, it kind of made me think of maybe more abstract, or maybe not things that I might think of when I kind of go around campus, or maybe different angles that I wouldn't normally see if I wasn't a part of a certain community, or if I wasn't part of a certain organization, etc. So one that really comes to mind, and I do want to point this out very quickly, is this is a nice little sheet that we've had, or that I've made a little bit about some of the different things or concerns that students have had about what things they might be thinking about, or their problems or issues on campus. But nevertheless, one of the bigger things that has comes to mind when talking about this is when we were talking to the Muslim Student Association, we actually got brought up with a pretty interesting point, or a pretty interesting idea that they don't have, or they feel like they don't have a correct place or a proper place to go and pray. And we feel, or that's something that I didn't really think about or know about because I'm not a Muslim or part of the MSA. But hearing about that, it kind of made me feel like there was a need that wasn't being filled that I feel like everyone should really have on campus, which is just the stairs and use the elevator, and it's fine. But for someone who can't have that same option of using the stairs, they rely on these ramps, or they rely on these elevators, and sometimes they just plain aren't working. And I think that's the greatest disservice for them. Just because you are disabled does not mean you are unable. And so kind of taking away these different things that we've made in order to help them in the best way possible, but these aren't working, it does a huge disservice to them. So I think that's a massive problem of simply buttons not working.
Angel, you'll begin.
Well, I would first of all begin with being this might sound bad, but I guess being somewhat recognizable, right? I want to go someplace and have someone know me not only for me being a part of SGA, or me being vice president, or these high sort of title that I have around campus, but to know me as a friend, to have a personal connection with me and say, hey, he's vice president, but I know him as my friend. That's Angel. Or hey, like at least I had a conversation with him, And not to say that, you know, that that these positions are kind of away or sort of higher than an average student. It's just I want to make that community, or I want that recognizability, not only for some sort of popularity or not some sort of ego, but to know and to let people know that, hey, like, I know him. I have a connection with him. I have a relationship with him. I'm his friend. And I guess to kind of go along with that is, because I'm so diverse, and in my opinion, I'm very grateful to be diverse in so many different organizations around campus. I kind of get my hand into a little bit of everything. I kind of see a lot of many different people from so many different backgrounds, and being part of the multicultural, being a resident assistant, those things are things that bring you, that kind of force you into a diverse environment. And so being able to talk and really communicate what we're speaking about and really promote SGA as a whole through each one of those communities, it will, in my opinion, have a domino effect. People continue to talk about it. What's going on with Angel? What's he's doing? What are we doing in our organizations? How can it work with SGA? I think that's also really vital, is being able to reach out and tackle certain issues together, or maybe partner on different events and things like that for the greater student body. So I think through a combination of my own personal connections, relationships, being able to build real, in my opinion, just friendships, and being able to partner with SGA through my promotion of those different communities, and again partnering with SGA with the different organizations and different communities of Ball State, I think we can really make SGA what it needs to be and how advertised it really should be on campus for everyone.
Yeah. How will you increase the awareness of the significance of your position to a wide range of students? Whenever you're ready.
Yeah, so I think when talking about the role of vice president specifically, it's important definitely to focus on the legislative branch side of it, because that is the way that a lot of students are going to interact with the Student Government Association over their time here at Ball State. Whether it's because they're in an organization that has a representative, because they know their hall council representative or more, this is definitely the way so many students are going to interact with our organization. So to make them, I guess, aware, understanding of the significance of my position is really by continuing efforts I've started this year to teach different students on campus about what SGA is and how they can really connect with the different people in our organization to get change enacted. Being part of the Student Government Association is a time commitment. And so even if students do have a real willingness to be even advocates for their own selves, maybe due to other work or organizational obligations, they might not have the time to do it. So teaching them how they can connect with the organization and different ways they can be a part of it, and how our legislative process even works. A lot of students remember a couple years ago when the minimum wage resolution was passed, and for so many upperclassmen, this was their only real interaction with legislation that student government has passed. So really teaching them what this process looks like, where it goes after it leaves the Senate, so they know, okay, if my concern is brought to the vice president or to a senator, where is it going to go after that? And I also think it really does come from also making sure that different people are aware of what we're doing. Like we mentioned earlier, making sure that they understand what is going on in the organization at all times, so they really can understand the differing roles that we have and really connecting with different organizations.
Thank you. Alrighty, our fifth question of the evening. Of all of your policy points, which do you consider the most important, and what steps will you take to ensure it's completed? Start with Burnett.
Yeah, so I think of all of our policy points, safety has been the one that time and time again, when we're talking with students of all different backgrounds, that they come to us and say, this has been a concern of us on campus. Whether it's someone who lives in a residence hall or lives off campus, it's definitely something that has been at the forefront of their minds. So when it comes to our policy point and how we're going to guarantee and work to getting it enacted, making sure that we at least address this really important issue, it'll definitely come by working with the different offices and administrators around us. So when it comes to student safety, one of the areas that we're really passionate about is getting an app introduced to campus so all students can get access to the resources they need right there in their pocket. And me and my running mate know that this is going to come by working with a couple different offices. We'll have to talk to the university police, the Office of Student Life, the counseling center on campus, health promotion and advocacy, as well as marketing to figure out how is this going to be possible. We're going to write a proposal in order to make sure that we're getting the needs addressed, making sure it's comprehensive in what we're asking the university to work with us on. So when we go to upper admin, to different offices on campus, we have a complete proposal filled with data talking about different student safety needs on campus, why they feel like having a mobile blue light function is going to be important, or why having access to different mental health resources is going to better impact their lives. We also, when we're talking about student safety and looking at this app we're hoping to introduce, we have looked at different apps that other universities have. So this will also involve working with the advisors that help the president and vice president reach out to other organizations across other universities, figure out how their apps work, the resources they have, and what loopholes they had to jump through. So when we're going and we're talking to the student body about the progress of this app we hope to develop to address student safety, we can be very honest and transparent about what is happening throughout this process. We know this is going to be a somewhat lengthy process when it comes to addressing student safety, but really being honest about these different steps is a really important process and part of that.
Angel?
Can you repeat the question one more time, please?
Of course. Of all of your policy points, which do you consider the most important, and what steps will you take to ensure it's completed?
Well, I guess not to continue to beat a dead horse, but as me and my running mate and some of our other followers may know, is that our campaign doesn't necessarily have one singular or a couple of points that we want to accomplish, right? Now, it may sound bad on the surface, but I want to really outline what that really entails. We get our platform points from the people directly, and the more we hear about a certain issue, the more we want to tackle that problem. Those issues that we hear about the most common will be our platform points, are our platform points. Whether it be parking, whether it be complaints about parking, or maybe dining. The main issue that I see with all of these problems is what our main promise in our campaign, which is transparency. The transparency between parking services and making sure what times you're able to park in which places, what places you can actually park in, and how to even buy a parking pass. All this information is sometimes difficult to navigate. I know me personally, I've gotten several tickets just from not knowing what times I'm able to park in a certain place. And that's something I'm obviously embarrassed about, but it's just not common knowledge, I want to say, because other students are having the exact same issues as me. Another thing for dining, we got this a lot as well when we were talking to our different organizations, was really knowing how much things cost. Something so simple as a price sticker, where you go up to the register and you don't know how much exactly you're really buying the thing for. You might be $12, you might be $7, but you're not really sure. So you kind of just guess and you hope that it's within your meal plan. Now, all of these things, these issues that really are just information that is being withheld, or that you're just unsure about. All of that leads back to transparency. Knowing what's going on, making sure we're all on the same page. Because like I've said before, when you win, I win too. So I want us to be on the same page, and I want you to get answers to your questions. That's what me and Sam are all about. We're all about making these questions answered and letting you have closure to something that maybe you heard about a while ago, but now you're hearing about it again and you thought was fixed. But we want to give you these answers. We want to be transparent with you, and we want to have an open line of communication with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Our final question of the evening before closing statements. What do you think has been the most important accomplishment of the Student Senate in the past year? And how would you like your administration to build on or continue such an achievement? We'll start with Angel, whenever you're ready.
Yeah. So I say one of the things that I've heard about, at least through the current administration, has been the addition or continuing to add of bus stop roofs, or bus stop shelters, excuse me. While it might be something small, I feel like it's something that has given a lot of more structure, or maybe more hospitability to our campus. Sorry, and I think it's just something that maybe should have been to with the start. Like I said, it might be something really small as getting covers over bus stops, but I think through these small in increments of change that the current administration has made a great big deal of change for the better. And while not everything get passed through Senate, um, it's important to recognize that there are just some things that may be better served in other ways, or um, maybe can be moved to in a specific way to better serve the overall community of the students. Regardless, I don't want to get too far off the question, and I would say that the bus things are the best thing for campus that I've heard of so far.
Thank you. What do you think has been the most important accomplishment of the Student Senate in the past year, and how would you like your administration to build on or continue such an achievement? Whenever you're ready.
Yeah. So I guess first, to just address what was previously said, as wonderful as the bus stop shelters are, that was a project of the executive board, and the Senate, while they have so graciously passed and allocated the funds for that, were uninvolved in that. Instead, what I would say is the best accomplishment of the Student Senate this year has been how they've been working on really long-term projects. All across the Senate in different groups, they've really started to look at long-term projects that we can see in the future. And I feel like all of these have a lot of value. So I don't want to, I guess, focus on just one, but this idea of really working on long-term projects to better the student body that are going to take some time to get through, starting them now in caucuses and committees so that they can continue on in the future. So just a couple of these projects that have started talking up to upper administration about is helping serve the veterans community by looking at potential memorials or redoing the Wall of Honor, looking at long-term projects that will benefit NPHC, the historically Black fraternities and sororities on campus, meeting their needs and desires for recognition on campus. These long-term projects have started in the Senate, and how I believe our administration would really help continue this forward is by continuing to empower these individuals that are working on these projects with the resources they need. As administrators change, as people working in different offices changes, making sure that they always have the connections with the correct person. Additionally, as caucuses and committees change moving on into the next year, making sure that the individuals that are really joining the organization in the future know what work has been done in the past. They get a full blueprint of what has already been accomplished so they know where they can pick up and start. And really making sure everyone has the resources they need so these long-term projects which they've started now can be accomplished in the future.
Perfect. Thank you. All right, at this time, considering we still have quite a bit of time in my hour to host this debate, we're going to open the floor up to the audience for any audience questions. Yes, Monet.
Yeah, so, pardon me, one of the main roles of being vice president for me is so for those who don't know, as the vice president, essentially, my job is to run the Senate meetings for everything. So my question is quite simple. Can you kind of share how many Senate meetings you've attended and also walk me through, and everyone who's kind of in process of this committee, my goal?
Can
Would you like me to?
Yes, please.
Yeah, of course. So Monet serves as current vice president of SGA,
Yes.
and she says that the biggest role of being vice president is being the president of the Senate.
Mhm.
So she would like to know how many Senate meetings you've attended in the past, and if you could walk the audience through a typical Senate meeting and how that would run.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I will say, while I'm not as experienced nor as knowledgeable as Ms. Large, I will say that I have sat in on, unfortunately, no Senates. While that may have a negative effect on me, for sure, as to not being able to attend these meetings, it unfortunately just hasn't been able to fit with my current schedule as it stands. Now, because of that, I know that I tried doing some sort of due diligence still, even though I'm not directly involved with SGA, even though I'm not within the Senate, even though I'm not anything. I'm just a student. But I tried doing my due diligence here. I did my best to go through the Constitution and sort of pick out the things that what I believe are important as vice president roles. And secondly, I also had emailed the current administration for possible help on what it means to be vice president, or advice, or maybe just tips that might be useful to me. And unfortunately, I have yet to get a response. That email was sent out on Monday, and I understand there's a lot of things that they might be dealing with, or they might be extremely busy. But I feel like I've tried doing my due diligence of really doing my research or trying my best to be involved even when I'm not. And while I don't understand or know completely a Senate meeting from beginning to end, I know that there's an agenda. The agenda is what's read out usually by the vice president, and it's gone through usually new business, or sorry, excuse me, old business, then new business, and it might be a variety of different topics. You might have a special guest one time, and so you announce that, and you might go through the voting process, and so you kind of usually go into breakouts, and through that, like I said, I'm not experienced as much as Miss Large, and while that may be a big weakness to me, I still feel like I am more than willing and ready to learn about the processes that are required for this position. We begin inaugurations in April, and so from now till then is plenty of time, and I know that I'm able to really absorb the information that I need to in order to fulfill this role to the best possible, to my best possible ability. And while I might have other people who doubt me, or don't know about my ability, or whatever it might be, is that I know I have to believe in myself, because otherwise, who will? Thank you.
Thank you. Right, any other audience questions at this time? Yes.
What is the most important platform point that you received from the students?
Yeah. So my most important platform point is actually I touched on it earlier. The Muslim Student Association. I thought that was a huge thing to have brought up to us. And while it's not necessarily just that specific person or that specific organization that I want to kind of address is the issue, but it kind of talks about a larger part, or larger part of campus, of that some faiths just really don't have the space that they would like in order to practice their religion or their faith or whatever it might be. And I want to be able to provide that space for them, because they may not feel comfortable doing it in certain places that were previously made for them. They might not feel comfortable doing it in their dorm. They might not feel comfortable doing it at home. Maybe they want to be in a community space where they share with other people. And again, this is not only just a Muslim Student Association concern or a Muslim issue at all. This could be for any sort of religion. Is something else that I've heard about, is that there's no place for, or excuse me, there are a lot of different Catholic or maybe Christian churches within walking distance, but maybe other temples or synagogues and things like that really aren't. And you can even go and unfortunately, there just isn't that place available to them. So I think giving them that space and really doing away with the deprivation that they might have is something I find really important. Not only for the Muslim Student Association, but for people of any faith or any creed.
Anybody else?
So you both have mentioned wanting to touch on disability excellence. So I have a question for both. What is your understanding of the accessible needs on this campus? And if you do have an understanding, how would you go about addressing these issues?
Did you both hear that, or would we like to repeat?
Can you repeat it? I'm sorry.
Yeah, of course. My understanding, it's for both tickets. Please correct me if I'm wrong, because I have hard of hearing. But from my understanding of the question, it was, what are the accessibility needs that you've found to be most prevalent, and how will you address them in your time as administration if you are elected? Perfect. All right, and we'll start with, Angel, you've talked a lot. Let's start with Brenna.
Okay, so another part of the question that was asked that I definitely want to start with that was like, what is your understanding of this? Because I have disability accommodations myself, I definitely feel like this is something I can speak to, because it does make up an everyday part of my life. It's definitely something I experience every day, having to go through that process of getting accommodations at the very beginning of my time here at Ball State was part of my experience. So when it comes to addressing issues concerning disability, I definitely feel like I'm very capable of doing it because it does make up part of my life and a part of many of my friends' lives. So when it comes to addressing these issues, we've already started the process by talking to students that are members of the organization, specifically that deal with disability. So we talked both to some of the general body members as well as the president of ADA, which is the Alliance for Disability Awareness, to really get their understanding of these issues, as well as students across other campus organizations. When it comes to addressing these issues specifically, we've already started to set forth a plan on how to address these issues. When it comes to bringing awareness in general, because so many students don't understand the needs or the problems that face students with disabilities, we're going to partner with the Office of Disability Services and ADA to put on educational programming so students can better learn about what these problems are and that currently exist on campus. When it comes to some of the other different accessibility issues, we've also already started to lay out this process. When it comes to, for example, helping with the sidewalks that are broken and the ramps that are not in the best of shape that can impair accessibility, working with the Office of Disability Services and Facilities Planning and Management for ways that we can get these repaved or redone in a timely manner. Additionally, when it comes to making sure that students are aware of the accommodations that they can receive, making sure this is well advertised to students so they always know how they can access these accommodations. We also have heard a lot about the buttons on doors not working. This is definitely something that is a prominent concern of students with disabilities. And we have plans in place on how to address this, whether, depending on what marketing and other administrators in the university feels best, having a QR code around doors so students can scan and report the problem, or having it be a built-in feature of the app. The way it currently stands, where people email the ADA president, is simply not feasible in the long term. So really working in different ways to provide these plans for students, work with upper administration so these changes can be made and their voices, my voice, our voices are continued to be heard.
Yeah.
Whenever you're ready.
So, unfortunately, my understanding of the disability accommodations is not something that I am not too familiar with because I am not a part of that group or have used the disability services on campus. While I have had my own unfortunate physical setbacks, I don't wish to say that I am been a part of this group or anything like that. And so, knowing that, I understand these issues only from the community, from what people have told us, from these different visits or the different interactions that I've had with people one-on-one. And so for me, the big problems really have been maintenance of the infrastructure on campus. Is the maintenance of buttons, of ramps, and making sure that those things are really functioning in the way that they should be. And because a lot of the times when we're kind of taking away this, what really should just be a given in a lot of buildings or a lot of places around campus, they usually just simply aren't existent. And not only can they be improved upon, they can be better. And, they can not only be improved upon, but they can be continued to maintain as to what they are right now. Another thing that I wanted to touch on was sometimes the mental health accommodations that come from the Office of Disability. And maybe you not always see a physical disability because some people might have anxiety. So they're able to kind of get their tests in a different, on a different day or on a different room to sort of deal with that issue that they might have. And I think to address these issues, I think it's vital to build a proper relationship with the people at the Office of Disability Services, like Ms. Large said, is making sure to work with them on goals or things that we want to accomplish for what we've heard from the students and bring it into a reality. So I think that being able to have a proper or really sustainable relationship with them and being able to have that open line of communication is extremely important to regularly check in on the issues that they might be having as not only as an office, but the students' concerns that they're receiving as well. And we can kind of pivot and move to what might be the most pressing thing at the time. Thank you. me, being a part of SGA now, at least, is something that I've noticed for my time entirety here at Ball State. Is unfortunately that I didn't necessarily know a lot about SGA, and so I kind of felt a need to bring in some more communication or understand really what's going on at the student government level, because me going through my daily routine or going through my daily activities, I don't really hear about it, unless the only time I ever heard about it really was during the campaigning season, and I didn't and I heard the different promises, or I heard the different points that they had, and I never really heard about it after. And so what I want to change is be able to follow up on that. I want students to know what it means to be an SGA. I want students to recognize what SGA can do for them. Because having that lack of, sometimes it, I don't want to say, but it might be credibility, right? Like some students may not have that much faith in student government because of the no response that they've gotten after they have been promised or talked about these platform points. So I kind of want to try and put an end to that. At least I want to give an answer to someone. If I'm able to help them out in any single way, to able to talk about an issue, a concern that they might have to people who can really make a change and impact in their lives. I think that's what really drives me to be a part of SGA. That's maybe why I wanted to, because I've noticed this pattern of people continuing something or not really knowing anything. And it's something that I can share that feeling with a lot of other students that really don't know much about SGA. And I'm really tired, I'm really sick of that pattern. And so I want to change that. I want to not only be a recognizable person, but I want to be a symbol for other people to say, as an example, hey, like I'm able to do it and you are too. I want you to see me as a motivation, or as a way to not only talk to me, but use me as a tool for your concerns or your issues that you want to express, your feelings that you want to talk about, that really you don't have any other platform to kind of express these things. But I want to make that change of, if you make a concern to me, or if you are able to speak with me, that it will be brought up, that you'll be heard, for the people who aren't in the room right now. Thank you.
Perfect. We will take one more question from the audience before we move on to closing statements. Okay.
That was
Okay, one hand went down.
cool.
This question for both of you. Just how do your individual personal experiences in your life make you more qualified for this job than the applicant?
All right. I think Angel just went, so let's start with Brian.
Yeah, so I guess for individual experiences that make me more qualified, not only have I been to a Senate meeting before, but I've served in every other position in the legislative branch to date. I've served as a senator on every single independent committee. I've served in the 2 other Senate leadership positions. I have attended the meetings that the vice president has to go to, both as a voting member of those committees and as a proxy for the vice president. I know the ins and outs of this role extremely well, and have been really involved with current members of the organization. While I know my opponent has lots of really wonderful qualifications, when you're leading a whole branch of government that is typically, around 50 members, and you've never been a part of it before, that is a really intimidating and formidable task, and it's definitely something that I know really well. Additionally, when it comes to what makes me more qualified for this role, is there's lots of existing members that are part of the legislative branch that the vice president has to oversee. There will be members of this group that return next year that I already have personal connections with. I've talked to these people one-on-one. I know their names, I know information about them, and have that connection built with them. So when it comes into the future and the next years, I have these pre-existing connections and relationships with them to help really lead the organization and move it forward. And even outside of my practical experience in student government, I have lots of other leadership experience. I'm a part of multiple different organizations on campus, and I'm a really involved member of the different communities that I'm a part of. I'm the president of my sorority, so I have that experience leading another type of organization and working one-on-one with differing individuals. I'm also a member of other groups. For example, I write for an online magazine here on campus called Her Campus. So I'm typically a pretty well-written, well-spoken individual. So when it comes to providing proposals to upper administration and university governance, I definitely have that skill there. Additionally, I have relationships with lots of different administrators on campus. One of the roles of president and vice president is really connecting with these administrators to advocate the concerns of the student body. And I have those pre-existing relationships with these administrators. When I walk in a room, a lot of them know my name. We can have conversations about things other than just what's being spoken because I have that connection with them already. And I think that's just a fraction of what makes me really qualify for this role.
Thank you. Angel, whenever
Can you
you're
repeat the question again?
Of course. It was, what in your personal experiences make you qualified for this position? Whenever you're ready.
Yeah. So, my personal experience really comes from basically transferable skills that I can apply to my entire life. Like I mentioned before, I had some different qualities or things that I've written down that I kind of talked about or touched on, which were leadership, problem solving, and community building. And I think really being able to tap into all of those, like Ms. Large said, is mainly building a community with my Senate is something I really want or plan to do. And I get these different qualifications, or I get this ability to build community through my different positions that I currently hold at Ball State. One of them being the resident assistant. One of your jobs, literally during the orientation, is know and be known. So making sure that all the folks that I come into contact with, making sure that we're all able to come together not only as a Senate, but as friends. And we might not get along with each other, and that's okay. I'm not asking us to be best friends. I'm just wanting us to work cooperatively together. And while Ms. Large does have a lot of different already established connections, I want to be able to go past that. I want to be able to bridge real friendships even outside of SGA. I want to make these connections more than just we're working together. I want to make it a bond that really transcends that sort of worker slash co-worker slash superior relationship. I want to be able to listen to my Senate and really support them in every way, because their concerns or their issues are my concern. And so I want to say, going back to a little bit to the question, is I really want to highlight that being a part of residence housing life is all about building community. That's my job. I get paid $60 an hour every 2 weeks to do it, but that's what I do. And I have so much fun doing it. I don't feel like it's taxing. I don't feel like it's something I have to go out and do, or so. I don't even feel like it's my job. I feel so grateful to have people all around me, to be able to go out and have people talk to me or have a conversation with just about anyone. I love having people around me and being able to really share what is on our minds, because I think that's what's important. That's all I want to touch on. Thank you.
Alrighty, at this time we're going to head on to closing statements. If you have any other questions, please feel free to message either platform on Instagram or through those texts of wherever their campaign lives. Go ahead and feel free to send them a message at any point in time. But at this point, we're going to move on to closing statements. And then on my paper, it has Brenda going first. Is that all right?
Yeah, that works. Awesome. Yeah, so I wanted to start off by thanking everyone again for attending tonight's debate, as well as a big thank you to our moderator and Elections Commissioner Seattle and her board for all of your hard work. I know this is definitely a really stressful time. So because we just got asked another question about qualifications, I won't go into that aspect of it, but I know I am well suited to this role and understand it deeply, where I could definitely lead this branch of the organization. Whether that's from attending meetings or having these personal relationships with members of the legislative branch, I know I am well suited to having a potential future position as vice president of the student body. Additionally, I've touched on it a little bit throughout my time in this debate, being able to provide the support that senators need. They are the ones that members of the student body are going to directly to address their concerns. And this diverse group of senators needs to have support, and I know I also have the background knowledge to provide them that support so they can continue to work on projects and initiatives and legislation to make meaningful change on this campus. While me and my running mate have definitely built a really wonderful platform that we're proud of through talking to different students and student organizations, as problems continue to come up and they go to the Senate, as president of the Senate, I really want to be able to empower senators to be able to leave a positive impact on this campus. And because Seattle just said you can message us on Instagram, I'm going to shout out our Instagram here. It's pool with an E, large.elevate. Or if you don't have access to Instagram, which my running mate touched on during his debate, you can always come up and talk to me after the debate, and I would love to answer any questions that you have one-on-one. Thank you once again for your time tonight. I hope I have the chance to serve next year as SGA's Vice President and serve not only the Senate, but as the voice of the students. Thank you.
Angel, whenever you're ready for your closing statement.
Thank you. I first of all would like to thank everyone for coming out, for being here. If you're watching, thank you so much for watching. I would also like to thank Ms. Large for being here, and also some of her members from her campaign. Thank you. I'm sure you guys are able to support her, so thank you very much for being here. I'm sure it means a lot to her. I also want to thank the Elections Committee for, again, throwing this on and always being really able to, or communicative about when things are happening and how they're happening. So thank you so much for that. As the last thing I kind of want to leave with is I want everyone to know that I'm looking for a change in the student government. I'm looking for something that maybe hasn't really been looked at or seen before. And I don't want to be different just for the sake of being different, but different in the way that we know we can cause a great movement and really shift the ideals of the student government back in the hands of the student body. I want my main goal as vice president to be transparent. I want to have an open dialogue with students at all times. I want to maintain this line of communication and not just disappear after me and my running mate are elected. I want to make sure that these things are continuously talked about and to be shifted and pivoted to the most pressing issues that come along as we are in office. Because I believe that even though I'm not a part of SGA, even though I don't sit on these Senate meetings, I really do believe that my applicable skills throughout campus and my character traits or my personality, my way of being is simply to join together, to be united, to work as one, because we are always better together. I lastly just want to leave with all of you that all of you have everything to do anything. Please, 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 on February 19th and February 20th, get out and vote. Even if you don't vote for my group, even if you don't vote, I want to encourage voting, and I want to encourage being able to be proactive in your election, because otherwise then you aren't really representing, or you're not really showing the true nature of what you're feeling or how things are going on campus. Nonetheless, thank you so much again to everyone for being here. I appreciate it so much.
Thank you. Right. Well, and that concludes our vice presidential debate. The time is 6:27, so we are right under that hour mark. Thank you all so much for being here. Remember, voting begins at 8 a.m. on Monday, February 19th, and closes at 5 p.m. on Tuesday, February 20th. You will receive your ballot via email on Monday morning to your Ball State email account. If you do not receive that email, please do not forward your email to your friends. Your DSU ID is tied to that. Go ahead and send me a message. We'll get it figured out. Sound good? All right. Thank you all for your engagement during this election season, and thank you